So I want to show you guys some of the work that is going on here with Bo. As you can see, one of the big things that we're working through is anxiety. Okay, he's got a ton of energy, but it's very anxious energy. A lot of times dogs who have a lot of energy, it's typically anxiety. So he's got his e-collar on, and one thing you'll hear a lot of people out there say, sometimes even trainers that use e-collars believe that you can't or shouldn't use an e-collar on an anxious or nervous dog. And I've found that to be completely untrue. I've heard it from other successful trainers, and I've done it myself in my training, had a lot of success. E-collars are just really actually very, very wonderful tools for anxious dogs, some of the best tools for anxious dogs. So he's got his e-collar on, he's been conditioned to it, he's been trained on it for several days now. And I want to show you kind of one of the procedures, protocols that I'm following with him to help get, and you can see he's already kind of figuring this out. I haven't done anything yet, but he knows it's coming. What I've been doing is having him go into a down. So, 2 days ago, he would not have been lying down. He would have been up spinning circles with me standing this close talking. And so I calmly tell him to go into a down. I use my remote collar to reinforce that. Then what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you this now. Right now he's in a down, but his brain is not in a down. His brain is still very up. And if you've seen other videos I've done, you've heard me talk about how if you can stop the physical act of anxiety, the mental follows. And it takes time. It's not an immediate thing. Now, usually I'm talking things like spinning circles, barking, all the more physical acts that you can see. There you go. Thanks for the demo. And right now it's hard to address, like he's just panting heavily. You can't tell him to stop panting heavily, but what you can do is you can put him into a down again. So I'm going to say down, got the e-collar on, that's what he's looking at. Yes. As soon as I said yes, I release the button. Okay, we're teaching him to put his head down. And guess what that stopped? The heavy panting. Okay, so the idea behind this is, and I'm going to move around here, so he's probably going to sit back up. Yep, down. I'm just holding the button here. Yes, and you can do that at a corrective level as well. You can do that at a corrective level as well. He's still typically working on the working level with certain things, but when we're doing stuff more on a corrective level, you can use a remote collar correction for that. Okay. Right there. That's going to make a big difference. If I stay consistent with this, and if you're working on this yourself, you got to stay consistent with this. And basically what I've been doing, I'm leaving his e-collar on pretty much all day. Now I'm rotating sides. You don't want to leave e-collars on for more than 3 or 4 hours in one spot. So every couple of hours we're rotating it to the other side. But that way, when I'm in the room and I see him doing this, I can put him into a down. Now if he's sitting up with his head up and relaxed, that's fine. It's not that he has to have his head to the ground the whole time, but when he's doing that heavy panting, whining, anxious kind of energy, I tell him to put his head down. I have no problem if he sits up and he's just kind of chilling, looking around. And the nice thing about the remote collars is I actually don't have to be in the room. So now he's getting to where he understands it enough. Initially I had to kind of sit here and continuously give the command and kind of work him through it. Now he understands it enough that when I go into another room, I can turn my camera on. I've got a little camera here, my tripod blocking it. But I'll turn that camera on. And I did this yesterday. I put a post about him in place. He was in place yesterday. Yesterday for dinner, he was in his crate. And when I went to make dinner, down, I went into the other room, watched him on the camera, and when he would sit up and get anxious, I would just tap the button, and he'd put his head down. So he's understanding it. And that's great, because then you can do it from another room. If you've got the camera set up, which this day and age, it's not too hard to be able to make that happen. And I've done this with a lot of dogs before. If you ever saw Khaleesi, the husky, I did this a lot with her. Bella, the German Shepherd, same thing with her. Dogs that struggle with pretty intense anxiety, and especially if they're doing it when you leave the room, the remote collars are awesome because you can still address it. Still address it. So now what I'm going to do is I actually want to get him out. And I want to put him on place. A lot of duration work is also really important for him. He actually is a lot more settled when he's in place. I usually don't have to do hardly any correcting when he's on place. So what I'm going to do, and I'm not going to be able to hold the camera up while I do this, so I'm going to tell you ahead of time. I'm going to put his collar on. And anytime he starts getting really anxious and wound up, I'm going to tell him down again. And then what I'm going to do after I put his collar on, and this you will be able to see, is I'm going to walk away from his crate, and I'm going to sit down at my computer. And I'm going to leave him in his crate in a down with the door open until he's settled again. And so what I'm doing is I'm working this around my schedule. Like I have to make a post live on Facebook. I've got a YouTube video up that's not live yet. So I've got to make that live, and then I got to go make some breakfast. So what I'm going to do is open the crate door and have him stay in there with the door open while I'm doing the computer stuff, which will take, 3, 4, or 5 minutes. And that way he's getting work in the crate without the door being closed. And that's important for dogs to do too. He's done that a good bit here. That also helps address their state of mind in the crate, so that they learn that the door open doesn't mean anything. The crate is just another command. And then when I'm done with that, I'll release him from the crate. I'll take him upstairs with me while I make breakfast. I'll put him on place. I just want to show you that process, because this is the kind of thing you can do with your own dog if you're working with anxiety. It takes some practice, but you can absolutely do it, and you can find ways to do this with your own daily life. I talk a lot about lifestyle training, and lifestyle training is really important. It's just fitting in training with your daily activities. I've got to do this website post anyway. I've got to make breakfast anyway. I definitely have to get my coffee. It was a long night last night. While I'm doing those things, I'm going to be working with him. So I just wanted to show you that. I'll show you what I can here, even though I don't have enough hands. So I've approached his kennel. He's sat up. There. Now he's probably going to do the same thing. I'm going to have to hold the phone and the e-collar at the same time. Take some finesse here. I'm going to grab his collar. As soon as he's showing the anxious energy, I'm going to put him back into a down. No. Good. I'm staying very calm when I do this too. You'll notice when I say no or anything to him, it's very neutral. No. No. Down. Good. Holding the button right now, actually, while I'm doing this. Down. No. I'm going to dial up on the remote just a little bit. Down. Good. Good. Down. Now I'm just giving taps. Since I dialed up on the remote some, I don't want to hold it down that high. And it's not very high. I mean, we're talking a difference from, he was at a 4 or 5, now it's at a 7. We're not talking a high at all. Down. Good. Okay, so that's how we're working through this. Same thing when I open that door. No. No. And he may jump up and adjust himself, and that's fine. I'm not holding the button down while we do this. He's working through this too. Down. So I'm working him, but he's working through this too. So little moments where it's not perfect, I don't care. It's just, this is the middle ground. And that's important. If you're working with your dog, don't get upset. No. And right there, he broke out of the kennel for a moment. No, I'm not upset. I'm just not going to let him do it. Down. Because this is challenging. This is definitely challenging for him. No. Down. Down. Good. And a lot of people would try to say that he's getting worked up because he's being corrected on the e-collar. But I showed you before I opened the door how he handled it, so you know that's not true. He's extra excited because the door's open. Good. He's handling the e-collar just fine. This is exactly how we want it to work. Good. And you'll notice too that when I praise him, especially when I praise him, Oh, gross. I'm being very neutral. I don't want to get him wound up. So that's why you'll hear me just say kind of a flat good. It's telling him that what he's doing is correct, but not getting him excited, because that's the last thing I want to do is get him excited. So I'm going to put the phone down, put his collars on, but you've seen how I'm addressing this. I'm going to continue to address it that way. Okay, so he's got his collar on. I'm not even doing the remote right now, all right? He's doing that on his own, and it's great. I'm just going to watch him while I walk away and try not to trip on things, because I want to show you that's exactly what we want. So now I'm just going to sit at my computer for about 5 minutes or so, do my computer stuff. When we're done, I'll go over, I'll release him, and have him on place while I make breakfast. At any point in time, if he picks his head up and gets anxious, he'll be corrected. Again, I don't care if he picks his head up and he's soft and relaxed. That's fine. If he looked like this, that would be fine. Okay? But I want that or that, and not the panting stuff. And when you do this enough, he's already actually calmed down a lot. Like I said at the beginning of the video, when I walked up and he was going into a down sum on his own, that's a huge improvement from just 2 days ago, where it was anxiously spinning circles, lots and lots of whining, pawing at the door. So we should see a lot of change. He's only been here a couple days. He's going to be here for 2 weeks. And staying consistent with it here, and then when his owners stay consistent with it at home, this should do a lot to address the state of mind, not just in the crate, but with everything he does. It's teaching him how to be calm. He doesn't know how to be calm yet. And so this is guiding him through that process and teaching him how to get into that headspace.